Hello,
Hey, good morning.
hello, internets. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you might be. Thank you for joining us here at Code Live. I'm your host, Sam Basu. With me, I have my very good friend, Cassandra Faris. How are you? You're on
I am
mute. There we
good.
go.
Of course, the minute I mute myself, you ask me something. Um, I try to minimize dog barking and mute when I'm not talking. But anyway, I'm doing very well today.
Good, good. It is. It is. It better be Friday.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's been a long week. So this is the chat show. This is the time where
Mhm.
we take the time. We have all been living through a global pandemic. We take the time to hang out with our friends that we haven't seen a lot in person of late. And our one rule for Fridays is we don't share screen. And after yesterday, Cassandra, I got to tell you this. I was streaming yesterday, like live coding, and we got to a point where for the last like half an hour or so, I could not build anything. Like my code will just like it just gave up on me. I'm like, okay, so we have our days. So you're just glad that you're not seeing me code today. So
Yeah.
here on the chat show, I want to know more about you. I think I've known you for years and years. You're amazing, but
Mhm.
let's know more about you. So we always start with the existential question as to who are you really? Have you figured that out?
Um, if I figured that out, I mean, I'm Cassandra Faris. For my day job, I am the technical community manager at Rocket Mortgage and also the president of STIR Scholarship for girls who are pursuing college degrees, which you all just donated to, and we very
Uh,
much appreciate that.
and that
I
is
just saw
so
that
nice of you
yesterday.
to do. That is so
Yeah,
nice of you. Yeah.
thank you.
No, I know you're super busy with all things DevRel and community, and we're actually going, I think, like almost 2 hours early today. I have a thing at 10.
Mhm.
Cassandra has a thing at 11. So we're like, okay, let's do early morning. Hopefully, we've had a couple of cups of coffee to
Yeah, yeah.
talk.
If you'd asked me to be here before 9 a.m., I might have questioned that
Yeah.
decision. But
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to have you here. So, where do you live? Yeah. How long have you been there? Do you love it? Do you hate it?
I live in Columbus, Ohio. Actually, it's funny. I still think of you as a Columbus person because we first
I
met.
still am at heart. Yeah.
Yeah, and we first met when we were a company I worked for was hosting user groups, and so I think it was wasn't it like Windows Mobile user group or something for a minute, and then
Oh
Windows
gosh. Yeah.
Dev. Yeah, so that's how you and I met. But I moved to Columbus
Mhm.
in 2009 with the intention to live here temporarily and then go somewhere warmer. But Columbus kind of like, I don't know, it pulls you in. It's a very friendly city. It's really diverse, very open-minded, and found a great group of friends actually through a soccer team and through our tech community here in the city. So Columbus is home until I
Yeah.
like move to Spain or something.
And great food scene if you're a foodie.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
very good food scene. I'm excited because I'm meeting one of my good friends for lunch today, and we
Nice.
always have we're having tacos, and we always get really good Mexican food when we go out. So
Yeah. Yeah, and to your point, it almost like does get cold in wintertime. Like the wind chills dip, and like I am right now much more north, but I'm close to the lake, so I have the lake effect, snow and other stuff, but it doesn't actually get like all that cold with the wind chills because like we have the temperate effect of the lake coming in. But
yeah,
yeah,
it's funny because I've the opposite experience. I grew up in the Cleveland area,
oh yeah,
and the winters would get brutal. And
yeah,
it was
it
funny,
does.
like even my parents' house is like a mile from Lake Erie, and so even between like my parents' house and a mile south, the change in weather is just so
It's a
extreme.
lot. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and a lot of the like bad stuff seems to skip around Columbus. Like you'll see the radar patterns, and it's like going north and south of us. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm hearing you're happy.
yes, very
Yeah,
happy.
yeah. All right. So you mentioned what you do real briefly, but tell us more. Tell us more about Rocket Mortgage and what you all do. What is it that you do for them, or can you fake it and not do anything?
Um, sometimes I feel like I'm faking it, or at least making it up as I go.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so our company runs by these like our basically like our guiding principles are these things called isms, and one of them is we'll figure it out. And I'm constantly saying like our DevRel team needs T-shirts that say DevRel. We'll figure it out because that's like we the DevRel team there is only a year and a half old. Um, we were spun up mid-pandemic. There's never been, I was the first ever community manager there. My coworkers were the first ever developer advocates there. So it's a brand new program, and figuring out kind of where we fit in. And we've pivoted a few different times. We were part of the tech culture team, and we were going to be focusing on some open source stuff. And then more recently, we've moved to the API architecture team. And so as we build out this API, we'll be starting to share a little bit more about that, as well as promoting some of our open source development and just getting our name out there as a fintech company. That's kind of what our DevRel's mission is, basically just to get the word out there with us as a fintech company. We have, one of the things I think is
you folks are like all over now. Like wherever I see on the internet, on like in-person things, you're all over.
Yeah, it's an amazing little team, but everybody props each other up. And I was going to say, like, one thing that I think is interesting is we have 2 developer advocates on the team, Krista Mars and Jason Bach, and then we have 2 other technical community managers, Rachel Cape and Alyssa Witzelman. Our community managers actually focus on 3 different communities. So Rachel does college and university relations and focuses on that area, and she's a brand new speaker, actually accepted to CodeMash, and I'm proud of her for that. Alyssa does internal DevRel. So things like our tech speaker series, Lunch and Learns, ways for people internally to experience some of the community stuff. And then my focus is the external tech community, developer community. And I do sponsorships, I do speaking engagements, I do, right now I'm kind of acting as the de facto team lead, so I'm kind of managing and herding the cats as well, and ramping up some planning for next year.
Nice. Good for you. Our good friend Eva is in the chat room. Yeah, well, we need to print those shirts. We'll figure it out. I'm an old man, and like 10 years back, like DevCraft, like it was something that you had to really explain. I mean, the craft has, I think, evolved a lot in the last decade, like most tech companies now understand. But like you were saying, like there are so many facets to this. Like, what's your student program like? How are you reaching younger audiences, newer audiences? How are you engaging developers? How are you doing stuff internally, carrying the message back and forth? It's a lot of different hats. So yeah, you folks are doing amazing. So let me ask you this: like, do you find yourself explaining what you do at work to people who are not from our industry, and how do you go about doing so?
Okay, so my dad's a cop and mom's a nurse. My family's all very blue collar. So explaining my job is interesting. I basically boiled it down to I am part of the Rocket technology team at Rocket Mortgage, and what I do day to day is I basically teach developers and teach technical professionals how to be more successful as humans as well as technologists.
Yeah, no, well said. That's absolutely said. Well said. Aaron Stanley King. Hey, Aaron. Good morning.
Hello.
That's what I do. That's well said. Yeah, can't say that at home.
Yeah, I mean, I think it helps that, like, when I started working in this industry, it was when Agile was really starting to become mainstream, and so everything I learned about how to work is the whole fail fast thing. Like, don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to try. If you fail at something, you can reflect back on it, retrospect, and change things. And so I've been, like, from the beginning, even the way that we run the business and the way that I have done things at previous positions, there's room to play around a little bit. Yeah. But I'm actually, on the topic of failure, I'm actually writing a talk on failing successfully that I'm going to be giving for the first time at CodeMash.
Nice, I'm excited. So we have mentioned CodeMash a few times here. So let me see if I can pull this up real quick. For folks who do not know, especially if you're in the Midwest, if you're not in the Midwest in the Americas, you may not know about this, but then we have a big thing called CodeMash. It's a conference that happens every January in Sandusky, Ohio, which is right by the lake, very cold, but it's a giant water park. So once you get in, you can be in your shorts and flip-flops all week long. And it's just a gathering of a lot of geeks. They put in a lot of effort trying to keep the Wi-Fi up for so many geeks all together. But we have a lot of fun sharing our experiences and our passions. So their
Wi-Fi's improved so much. I started going in 2012, and I've been in every possible capacity. As a family member, I've been as an attendee, I've been there as a speaker, a sponsor. Honestly, it's my favorite work week of the year. I describe it to people as it's college meets summer camp, because you spend so much time learning and have these very interesting conversations, but then you have a lot of time, in the water park and playing board games. And
Yeah.
one thing that Code Mash always reinforces for me is that, so like, you have late nights and you're in the water park and you're playing board games. And so my aunt jokingly calls it romper room. But the thing is that, like, those times when we're having meals together, we're playing board games, we're, in the lazy river or whatever, those are when I have some of the best conversations and make some of the best connections.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, like, kids are welcome. A lot of people bring their like whole family along, and they're replicating this on multiple places. Like that conference happens in Wisconsin Dells in the Kalahari Water Park. Tech Bash happens in the Poconos Water Park. They're also spinning up that conference in Texas starting next year. So good stuff. Now you mentioned a couple of times while you were getting started. So I want to go back to that. Like, how did you are here now after years, but how did you start your career? Is this what you always wanted to do?
I'm a law school dropout. I went to college to teach Spanish and English, and I still am a Spanish speaker. I just decided I didn't want to teach, so I studied philosophy and political science with a minor in Spanish.
Interesting.
Went straight to law school.
I didn't know about this. I've known you for years.
Yeah. And I went straight to law school because that's what you do with that kind of degree, and shouldn't have. And this is why I'm always telling, like, I tell people a lot of times, it might not make sense for a lot of people to go straight from undergrad to a graduate school. Like, you want time to figure out what you want to do. So quit law school, worked in insurance sales, worked in apartment leasing, worked in actually some like warehouse supervision, and then got my MBA and discovered that I liked both HR and marketing, which led me to recruiting. And then as a recruiter, I wanted to learn what we do in the community. I wanted to learn about the technology. So I started attending user groups and meetups, started hosting them, then started speaking at them, and then realized that my real passion wasn't recruiting. It was coaching and mentoring and developing people. But I can never take off the career coach hat ever. And I can't fully take off the recruiter hat either.
And you shouldn't, because you were amazing in those roles. Like, you were one of the first people who genuinely cared, and you wanted to kind of be amongst developers, and that's how you do it. Yeah. So and I was going to ask, like, the developer community, like, you got involved by hosting user groups and being part of it. What does that mean to you now?
I mean, I owe. That's part of why I started speaking. I just got a notification that my stand-up's starting, but I'm not being in it today. Anyway, so when I started cloud computing, it was new. So I started going to the cloud computing user group we had here in Columbus, and was just like really curious about everything that was going on. But at some point, I started to feel like I'd spent so many years just going to user groups and events and like taking and learning information, and I eventually realized that I had things that I could teach and be able to give back to the community by teaching. And so it's really why I went into speaking, was just to teach or to give back. And my first ever talk was actually at Code Mash. I was terrified when it was accepted, and it was called "It's Okay to Talk to Strangers." And so I laid out the process of a professional network and like how to build a network, find events to go to, have conversations at events, like very basic, like conversational steps, and then how to follow up. And that talk spun, now a personal branding talk came out of that. That's kind of Talk to Strangers 2.0.
Kind of directly against what we tell our kids. It's okay to talk to strangers. In fact, that's the biggest advantage when we go to in-person things. Right, we are growing our network. We are meeting new people. And it's all part of your career. And then opportunities open up when you know people, when you talk to people.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, that's like, I owe my job to Twitter. I mean, it's amazing what happens once you just get involved.
Yeah. So, given what you do now, what would you say is the most exciting part of what you do, and what are some of your challenges?
The most exciting part for me is the travel. I like everything from like sitting in an airport working to going on trips to meeting people. And then when I'm traveling, I'm giving talks. And so the most rewarding and fulfilling piece is that when I give talks, a lot of times, maybe at that conference, maybe 2, 3, 4 years down the road, somebody will come up to me and say, hey, I went to your talk and it changed my life, like in real ways. I have people who've found their dream jobs, people who've told me that they or their partners have been encouraged to get, the mental health assistance they need. And so um, I've helped people spin up their Twitter accounts and all this stuff. And it's really cool to hear how the stuff I talk about is having real impacts on people's lives.
Yeah, no, thank you for doing that. And
Mhm.
like I've heard you speak at multiple places, and I encourage folks like whenever you see Cass around, go to her talks. She's amazing. And I've also heard you. You started with the whole branding, talking to strangers, but you and actually Chris, who I have learned that he's called Salt nowadays. So I'm like, okay, so
Salt and Burnham.
yeah, well, they just call him Salt. Like, all right, I'll
Huh.
call you Salt. But
I just called him Mars.
however we call him, he's great. But you and him, or maybe it is just you who does the talk on mental health, and that is so important because we don't talk enough about it. Can you give us like maybe a couple of pointers on like some of the things you talk about? Like, what can we do in our everyday life to take care of ourselves a little bit more?
Cool. Yep, I now have, I guess, 1.5 talks on mental health. So my first one was called Health, Your Most Important Tech Tool.
Hmm.
And then I talk about um, the importance of both our physical health and our mental health and the parallels between the two of them, because there's so much stigma around mental health, mental disabilities, mental illnesses, and neurodiversity, but not around like somebody breaks their ankle or has diabetes or something like that. And then more recently, Demars and I have done a talk on the connection between accessibility, inclusivity,
Mm.
and we talk about the first part of the talk. I talk about kind of again the prevalence of mental illness in tech. I talk about burnout. I talk about support systems. I'm very big on the importance of having fun and enjoying life. I talk about all that stuff. And it gets very raw, very vulnerable. Sometimes we cry. And then Demars kind of shares his story as well and talks about how by making our teams and our apps more accessible for people who have neurodiversities and mental illnesses, we actually can include more people.
Yeah.
And it allows a team that has more people and people with different backgrounds and different ways of thinking is more successful. And so those are kind of the two main talks. But I think the biggest piece of advice, and I'm totally stealing this from an HR guy at a previous job, is he told me when I was like first diagnosed with depression and just struggling, he said, you need to take care of yourself. There's a reason why on the airplane they tell you to put your oxygen mask on first. If you are not doing well and you're
Hmm.
not healthy, you can't take care of other people, whether it's your kids, your spouse, your family, friends, you cannot. And so that's my whole thing is like, you got to take care of yourself. And don't feel selfish if you take, an hour here and there for yourself, even if it's, the other day I was super stressed out and I was like, I'm going to play Animal Crossing for 2 hours and just tune out the world because that's what I needed to do. It's okay to take care of yourself. And when you do, you come back better able to do your job and take care of, your family. And especially now that I have a daughter, I've been learning a lot about, taking care of a kid as well as taking care of myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Well said. And you're so right. Like, and I've sat through some of those talks, and it's like some of these, accessibility or IND conversations are uncomfortable. Like we are making ourselves a little vulnerable, but that is the point. And when we all think about it together, we do better. And like simple things like Demars always says, like accessibility makes a lot of like business sense as well, like for the apps we build and how we reach audiences. So thank
Yeah.
you for spreading the word.
Yep. You're welcome. Actually, the talk I mentioned on failing successfully, I have a short talk, like a 20-minute talk on being vulnerable and on how being vulnerable at work about mental illness, about struggles in life has actually helped me, I think, almost be more successful. And has helped me honestly just be able to be a full human when I'm at work. And so out of that is kind of being born this failure talk where a lot of times you hear these stories where, oh my God, my life was a disaster. And then a bunch of stuff happens and oh my God, my life is great again, right? Like you hear about when somebody fails and then the success at the end, but you don't hear what happens when you're in the thick of failure. So that's what this talk is going to be. A big piece of it's going to be focusing on, like when you're in the midst of, I don't know, a job loss, a death in the family, whatever, like whatever you're struggling with, like how do you get in that sticky, icky part that,
Mhm.
that's where you're struggling, where you feel alone. And so it's going to be I think it's going to be a bulk of the talk. But
Yeah.
sometimes I write a talk and then it, goes in a different direction.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Now you are a corgi mom. You have how do you say corgi or corgi?
Corgi.
Corgis. Okay.
Yeah.
And you have two of them. Oh,
I have
they're
two of
there.
them.
Oh,
Katie.
look
There you go.
at that.
They
Oh,
are. They are
they're on
chaotic.
camera. The internet
They
famous.
are. They
Yeah,
are.
and you post adorable pictures. So I don't know much about corgis. Like they're like a Welsh breed, right?
Mhm. Yep, they are Pembroke Welsh Corgis. There's two types of Corgis. There's Cardigan Welsh Corgis that have tails. They're bigger, look a little different. I have Pembrokes. They don't have tails. They're a little bit shorter. I think I've had Corgis for. I used to watch an anime called Cowboy Bebop, and in that anime was a Corgi named Ein. And so I was joking around for years that I was going to get a Corgi and name it Ein. And then it came time for me to get a dog, and I researched Corgis, and I was like, no, like this breed fits me. They're high energy, they're outgoing, can be a little anxious, but still like high energy, friendly, outgoing. They're a good size. My dogs are like 26 pounds, so they're not like little teeny dogs, but they're not. I don't feel like it's a horse in my house. And they're just funny and they're smart. And so I've had after I lost Ein, I actually got Katie, and then I got Pippin. Was a pandemic puppy, but he was planned. I was going to get a dog in the fall of 2020, and then we got locked down. And the dog's breeder had puppies available, so I got him in the spring and said he's named Pippin after the Hobbit, and she's Catherine, princess royal name.
Nice.
So
Nice.
they're fun. They're fun dogs. Loud, very loud, very barky. They shed a lot. Like this is the thing about corgis is people see them on the internet and they're like, oh my god, those corgis are so cute, but you don't know that they're not great with little kids. Because they're a herding breed. They're actually bred to herd cows and sheep and geese. So they bark a lot, they shed a lot, and you have to train them, and you have to really watch their weight. There's this whole thing on the internet about a thick corgi and how they're so cute, but that's like you get a little soapboxy here, but like all these overweight corgis, they have horrible back issues. And they are so prone to those. So you have to watch their weight because they will convince you they need to eat all the things. But like the amount of just joy and nonsense that these dogs bring to my life is unreal.
Nice. Yeah. We see the pictures you post. Looks fun, but I'm sure there's work behind it. But as long as you're having fun,
yeah. I don't want to do. I don't want to get a puppy again anytime soon because 2 puppies a year and a half was a lot. But I was still like fresh out of like Katie had been a puppy a year prior, so I was kind of used to puppy phase. And if I didn't work from home, I wouldn't have been able to get puppies because I wouldn't have been able to, be home and train them. But I've been working from home for like 4 years now.
Yeah. All right. So back to work stuff. Like you see a lot of like tech with your team and everything that you're using internally, everything that you see outside. What is something that you may have seen recently that kind of excites you?
I think one of the things I'm most excited about, and this is probably partially due to Mars because he and I we're good friends and we work close together. But the other day I saw it's such a little thing, but I was on an app for Jimmy John's of all places, and they had like an area that said their accessibility statement in the app. And I'm excited to see accessibility becoming more mainstream. I'm excited to hear about things being, available to more people. And it was just kind of cool. Like I'm ordering a sub and this app actually talks about it. I've never seen that before. So I actually like screenshot it and shared it with my team, and we chatted like, more companies should do that. We'd like to see that. And so I think it's not necessarily maybe a new technology, but I think they raised awareness about that. And some of even like the live captioning tools on PowerPoint, I didn't know those existed until I started doing this accessibility talk, and I was like, oh, you have to run like live titles, and that's one more thing we can do. So maybe a few more people can see these talks that couldn't see them otherwise. So stuff like that.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. So looking around your desk or maybe the rest of your home, are you a gadget person? Like, what's your favorite tech thing that you have?
favorite tech thing is honestly just my phone. Like I'm not anti-gadgets. I don't have a lot of IoT devices or anything in my house. I'd like some smart lights, but I haven't bought them yet because I just bought this house a couple months ago.
Oh,
But
nice.
honestly, like
Congratulations.
my phone and my Nintendo Switch, like those are my favorite gadgets.
Yeah, I mean, the phone is just so ubiquitous. Like, that's the thing you always have on
Yeah.
you.
But the Switch is, I hadn't played console games in years and years. And last fall, it's like, we're still locked down, nothing's happening. And so I bought myself a Switch and Animal Crossing and Breath of the Wild. And I've actually played this console consistently for a year, and I'm not usually that consistent with a video game. So, and we use it, like I play it by myself. And then when my partner and I have his daughter here, we will play a lot of like Mario Party and Mario Kart and stuff. So it's like fun for me to play, but it's also a fun kind of family activity.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. I haven't gotten into the whole the Switch thing. I'm still stuck on my Xbox. That's where the kid is as well. So
Yeah.
maybe someday.
Yeah.
Because like yeah.
Last night, my partner was actually asking his daughter. He was like, "How do I stop dying in Minecraft?" And she like goes on, and she's like, "Really, just stop dying?" And he's like, "You mean stop doing stupid stuff?" So like, yeah, he's a console gamer, but it was a funny moment.
Yeah. All right. So let's see, our good friend Catherine is tuned in. Hey, Catherine. Good morning. Scale of 1 to 10. How excited are you about Animal Crossing?
I saw that it came out early, and it was killing me all day yesterday that I couldn't play it, and I didn't get a chance to log on until like the minute like kid was in bed and everything. I was like logging into Animal Crossing just to see, but I haven't done a whole lot. I'll definitely be playing it this weekend, but I'm super excited. I played like an older version of Animal Crossing. I think it was New Leaf maybe. So this is the second time, but it's a fun little like creative game. It's casual.
I have a super dumb question,
Okay.
and my geek card might be revoked. Is there any of this on Xbox or no?
I don't think so. I think Animal Crossing is only Nintendo.
Yeah. Aaron is saying, people are hooked. You don't get much time with that. So.
Yeah, I was late to the party on that too because last summer I don't tend to play video games a lot in the summer, so I didn't buy a Switch till fall.
Yeah. Well, speaking of summers, let's talk about, or maybe fall now. Let's talk about you outside of work. You're obviously very busy, but when you do have a little bit of downtime, what do you do?
My social life revolves around board games, tabletop games, and soccer. So,
yes, and soccer. So you had mentioned this before. So this is the crew in Columbus, right? That you're involved in.
Yep, got their pennant there.
I can pull it up real quick. This is actually a great soccer team. What's this site I'm trying to pull up? Oh, crew is like video game. Hold on. And they're all yellow, right? All the time?
Yeah, black and gold. Yep. The pennant behind me, the black and yellow ones are.
Oh, there it is. It's the Columbus Crew. Yeah. So how did you get involved with them?
2 months after I moved to Columbus, a friend invited me to a game, and I'd never played soccer growing up. I'd watched it briefly when I was living in Mexico, but other than that, like I never got into it. But I was hooked I thought the game was very pretty, and I was fascinated by just watching like the players set up the play. It was to me a very interesting sport, and then so exciting when they do score. And so over time, it went from a game here and there to season tickets to I moved to the Nordic supporters section. When they were threatening to move the team, I volunteered with Save the Crew, which was a fan movement to keep the team in Columbus. And in the midst of all that, thanks to mostly Twitter, actually, I found a overlap of people into tech and people into soccer, and I founded the Geek Tailgate. Nice. So if anybody is ever in Columbus for a crew game, hit me up. You're welcome to the Geek Tailgate. That's the whole motto of the Geek Tailgate. And at this point, it's actually not. It used to be almost all people in tech. Like we had so many conversations about like retrospective best practices and like architectural decisions and stuff at the tailgate. But over time that, the group's expanded and we've spent so many years together that now that group's like family. And my thing with the tailgate's always been everybody's welcome at the Geek Tailgate. And that's about the only rule that I have for it. But It's amazing that it's just a sports team. Again, I met my partner through it. I met some of my closest friends through it. So
yeah, good stuff. Oh, and Catherine, and we actually got some gamers on our team now. Like Ed is a hardcore PC gamer. I'm more console, but I mean, life happened. I used to be a gamer, but then Catherine is on, and she's a gamer too. So what do you play?
I play Dungeons and Dragons when I can find a group to play with, and then my favorite games are kind of like worker placement type games and resource management. So my all-time favorite game is one called Puerto Rico. A big fan of one called Sulkin. I like Caverna. We played through Pandemic Legacy last summer, and that was it was super fun. If you're not familiar, Pandemic is a game where you are basically trying to wipe out a pandemic, and you're doing research and trying to you have a team of scientists and researchers and all this stuff. Pandemic Legacy takes that and breaks it into a series of seasons. So you have 12 months worth of each game you play is basically a month, and every time you either fail or succeed on the mission for that month, the game changes. So you're literally writing on the board with a Sharpie, putting stickers on it. The first time I had to tear up a card, I was like, this felt so wrong to destroy a piece of a game, because normally you're trying to keep your cards, in pristine condition. And so we played through that, and I'm happy to announce my partner and I did, in fact, beat the pandemic through a lot of science and research, and was our big kind of pairing that we played. But I get into some lighter weight stuff. We're actually a board game family, so I just this week finished putting together the cabinets where I'm housing my 100-ish game collection.
Wow, it's quite a collection. Yeah.
What about you? I'm curious what Catherine plays.
Yeah, and maybe Catherine, you need to come and hang out with us in one of those water park type conferences. Then
go to Code Mash.
Yeah, come to Code Mash. This pandemic things, it hits home a little too close. I'm glad you're able to beat it, because we have still not been able to beat it quite in real life.
I bought it as a joke. I kind of bought it as I was having a snarky moment, and we'd played regular Pandemic a couple times, and it was April of last year, and I was like, I've heard good things about this game, and just kind of called a coping mechanism. They do at some of the conferences have tabletop gaming. Actually, I used to work for a company that sponsored the Code Mash game room. I always take with me to conferences, I take a game called Bonanza. It's just a little lightweight card game, but it's really replayable and fun. So there's gaming at conferences. So if we're ever at a conference together, hit me up. We'll play something.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. What about food? Are you a foodie? What's your favorite cuisine?
I lived in Mexico for 2 summers, so I've been, apparently when I was 2 years old, I would drink the salsa out of the bowl in the Mexican restaurant. And at the time there weren't many Mexican restaurants at all. So in my whole life, I've been into spicy food and into Mexican food. So I'm going for tacos this afternoon. I'm super excited about that. And I like to cook and bake.
Oh, okay. You do or you don't, you said?
I do. Actually, I dabble in cake decorating.
Nice.
I don't as much now that I'm not working in an office, because there's nobody to eat all the cakes and stuff, but I definitely like to cook, and I really like to cook for other people. I like to host parties. That's something that really brings me a lot of joy.
Yeah, see, I have a lot of respect for people who bake. Just in our team and the folks we work with, we are all into cooking, but that's just throwing things together and experimenting. Well, baking is so precise, and anything you do wrong, you just don't even know what you have done wrong until it comes out all ruined. But it just seems like too much of a science to get into.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you learn over time. I actually am a huge Alton Brown fan, and he's taught me some tricks where, you don't have buttermilk, this is how you can substitute it. And I've gotten to a point where I probably couldn't throw together a cookie dough from scratch, but I could get pretty close, because I've been doing it long enough that I can tell sometimes this dough is too wet or too dry, or it needs, some other ingredient that's not actually called for. So you can experiment, but you definitely, I think the biggest thing is just making sure that, your liquids and your solids are going to interact properly. And then, temperature matters a lot too with baking, especially if you're doing cheesecakes, which I love to bake cheesecakes, but they are finicky.
Yeah, see, people are talking about the pandemic game. I've never played this, so I need to get into this.
Yeah, the first time I played it was at a game day I was hosting with actually a few of my consultants, and like I said, it was coping mechanism. I have a picture of my pandemic games that I use in the more recent mental health talk when I talk about maintaining our mental health in a pandemic. And I tell the story of like this was something I did that I don't know. That and watching a lot of TikToks were how I dealt with the pandemic and getting a puppy.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me about it. Okay, so this may be a trick question,
Uh-oh.
but if you have $1 million right now to spend, what would you do?
I'm traveling. I
Hmm.
mean, I feel like I should give like some answer. Like, I mean, I would definitely I would travel. The other thing I would do is for STIR scholarship, I would actually give a lot of that to STIR scholarship because
Yeah,
so
you
it'd probably be
mentioned
like
that.
give a bunch of
Do
money to STIR
you, do you
scholarship,
have
go
a
to
link
travel.
while we talk about it?
Yeah, we're just
Stir Scholarship, right?
stirscholarship.org. Yep. So
Let's see
I
if
think
I can
that's,
find it. Yeah, I found it.
yep. And then I travel a lot more than I do.
So, what got you into the Stir Scholarship? This is part of how, or is this affiliated or started with Star Trek, the conference?
Yes. So
Okay.
Jeff Blankenberg.
Yeah.
STIR Scholarship was Jeff Blankenberg's founder of Star Trek. So STIR Scholarship was founded partially because Jeff's daughter, Riley, had gone into a computer programming class in high school. Or maybe it was junior high, I can't remember for sure which. I think it was high school. And a professor was the teacher was basically like, "Are you sure you're in the right classroom?" To this
Oh,
teenage
geez.
girl, preteen girl. And so we're like, something's got to give, something's got to change. And it resonated with me because up through early high school, I wanted to go into a STEM field. I wanted to go into science. And freshman year of high school, I was struggling with algebra, and I had this teacher that I kept asking her, like, she'd tutor me, she'd help me during study hall, and she wouldn't. And so I was a 14-year-old girl, and I was kind of dumb, as some 14-year-old girls can be. And I was like, I don't need math, not realizing like how many things that would bar me from as far as careers went. So like chemistry was horrible for me. Accounting killed my 4.0 GPA in my MBA school. So I think back on that, and I don't want other girls to experience that. And
Yeah.
then now, one of my partner, he has a daughter who she's 12, and she's into unicorns and glitter and robots and engineering. And so very much like her and I click. Um, so that's how I got involved with it. I was just basically approached. I'd retired from organizing Dog Food Con and was looking to do something else more diversity focused, and was approached to run STIR Scholarship. And so that's how I got involved.
Yeah, no, no, thank you for running the show on that. Because, like you said, like once people are into our industry, we can do a lot of things to make people more successful, people feel more welcome, but it's just not a level playing field. It starts way earlier, and you're trying to kind of help on that front.
Yeah. And what STIR Scholarship does then is we initially it was founded just with the vision of awarding three $3,000 scholarships to young women pursuing tech degrees. The scholarships are renewable. So they get that scholarship. So it's $12,000. And right now we're funded up to the point where we've had 6 girls get the scholarship
Nice.
so far. Well, 3 more this year. And then the other thing that we're doing is we are helping with internships, because some of these people are now at points where they're looking for internships, and going to start doing some like help these people build a network. Build a network early and build that support system. So we're going to have them. We're looking for somebody to lead our mentorship program right now. We haven't found the right person yet because a bunch of 40-year-olds cannot probably, we aren't going to click as well with 22-year-olds when it comes to like day-to-day, mentorship and getting started as tech. So we're looking
Yeah.
for somebody to help run our mentorship program, but it's been cool to see. I'm excited to see where those recipients go over time too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for carrying the flag there. You have a lot of troublemakers on your team. You mentioned some of them. There's other troublemakers. So Salt, we talked a lot about you behind your scenes. I hope you're happy.
Yeah. I love my team. I really, really have a great team. Like, just it's one of those teams where everybody we've all had really good managers who've just enabled us to experiment and to just. I had a boss who his whole mantra was like, go do cool stuff is the censored version. And he's like,
Yeah.
let me know how I can get out of your way. And that's kind of how our team works as well, is, do cool stuff, let leaders know what blocks they can remove, and we all just complement each other really well. Everybody helps each other, and we're doing a lot together. It's been cool to see what we've done over the past year.
It has been very impressive. Yeah. Now, let me get back to something else you said you would do with your $1 million travel. I didn't know you had spent quite a bit of time in Mexico. What took you down there?
The first year I went, I studied abroad.
Oh,
and I lived with the host family and went to, a language school all summer. Lived with the host family who my host mom didn't speak English, and my roommate in Mexico and I made it a point to like hang out with the teachers at the school. Like we made it a point to like hang out with, the people who were from Mexico rather than the other American kids. And then the following summer we went back and did an internship with a human rights organization where we did advocated for like we'd go to like the pueblos and take medical supplies to people, and worked with some like after school education programs and stuff. So it was really, at the time there was like internet was new, there weren't smartphones, and it was amazing to just go be in Mexico for 6 months of my life. And I love the energy of I don't know what it is, like I don't have a drop of Mexican blood, but I feel very comfortable, very like something with the energy there, I guess I love. And the culture is fascinating, and I just, still friends with a couple of the people that I studied with there. So
yeah,
So, yeah.
and travel is amazing. It opens your mind. So, like, what in your travel adventures, like, what would you say is the most like amazing and exotic place you have been in the last
goodness.
10 years?
You probably know what's coming, but I got to speak at Antarctica in January of 2020.
I
And
should have seen that coming.
You should have seen that coming. That was totally, completely 1,000% out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I did it. I hate the winter. I had been planning to take myself on a different vacation. I'd gone through a lot of really hard stuff in my life, and I was planning to take myself on a vacation to actually Japan in April of 2020 to, see cherry blossoms and just go travel for a couple weeks. And then CodeMash 2019, I'd been seeing stuff about Antarctica on Twitter, and I was like, I kind of want to go, but I kind of don't. And like, I have, I've been saving money to go on a big trip. And I was on the fence about going, but toward the end of CodeMash, it was basically kind of Michael and Martine Dowden and Jay Harris had me fairly convinced to go. And I said, but like, I don't have a roommate, and this trip's going to be real expensive. I can't afford it. And Jay's partner, Christina Aldon, was also kind of on the fence and was going. And so we decided to go, and we roomed together. And I really we were great roommates together, and it was about 24 people who went, all speakers, and it felt a little bit like a retreat. And just, I came back from that trip so refreshed and so excited about so many things. And then I was able to actually travel again with Christina and Heather Downing, another one of our Dev Advocate friends, who was in Antarctica. We all went to Iceland back in May. So again, you never, and it's all because I saw a tweet about Antarctica. You just never know where stuff's going to come from in this world.
Yeah. See, I mean, you can go to all of these places in the world, but Antarctica is not something you just happen to just go and drop of a hat. You really need to find the right opportunity, or even the travel, companion, or the I don't know how you travel to Antarctica. Can you just travel? If you wanted to, you have to have a thing, right, that takes you there.
Yeah, so it was part of a cruise that was an 18-day cruise, I think it was 18 days, through South America and Antarctica. So we went to Uruguay, Argentina, Falkland Islands, and Chile, and Antarctica. We were supposed to, you could get you could pay to take an excursion to land on the continent itself, which I had done. But because there were some riots in Chile, the day that we were supposed to disembark, or the day we were supposed to embark on the journey, they were unable to get the proper amount of fuel to the ship. So our start of our trip was set back by 12 or 16 hours or something. And as a result of that, the weather was going to change. The weather changes that quick that it would have been unsafe for us to actually take the excursion, because you had to take a little hopper plane and then a tender, some sort of little boat. Oh, hold on.
Oh, you're good. That's Katie and Poppin, I want to say. Yeah.
So I didn't actually get to go on the continent, which was a bummer, because I'd packed, all this cold weather clothes and stuff. But we got we actually had like passed the Chilean base in Antarctica, and we're able to have some of the scientists come on and talk about things. And then as we were like cruising through the Antarctic waters for 4 days, the captain would come on and be like, there's some whales over there. And like, I saw a seal jumping off an iceberg, so many penguins.
Nice.
Got to take a helicopter trip in the Falkland Islands to go actually sit with a colony of rockhopper penguins, which are the ones with the little yellow tufts of hair on their head. And like, I was sitting on these rocks on the side of this mountain, and there's penguins like 4 feet away from me. I probably could have pet one, but I know better.
That is amazing.
So
all right, well,
unreal.
Yeah, here we are. You're amazing for what you do. I've known you for years, and so please keep on doing what you do for the dev community. We appreciate you very much. Looking ahead at the next, let's say, 6 months, 1 year, what is Cassandra excited about?
Cassandra's excited, honestly, to see. I'm excited about 2022 because it's going to be the first year where things are not going to be normal, if there even is such a thing. But excited that at least right now it looks like I can plan for a year where we can do all of the things the DevRel team wants to do and does successfully. I'm excited because our team's kind of found ourselves, like we found our groove and where we fit. And I think we're really, the past month or so, it's felt like we've built a lot of good momentum. And so I'm just excited to see, where we grow, what we do, some of the initiatives that are coming out, the API we're going to be working on. And then I think that's really about it. That and just like living my life, because it's been chaotic for a few years. And so it's nice that.
Yeah. Well, you inspire us to do good, to take care of ourselves and be better humans. So thank you for that. And, this was early morning at 9 a.m. So I appreciate you, taking the time ahead of your meetings and my meetings to kind of come and do this. So I appreciate this a lot.
Oh, goodness. I have corgi wrestling happening.
Yeah, they're like, Mom is around. And just too
busy. It's a pair of corgis. Is that a cat? That's Pippin.
That's adorable.
I have a thing of treats on my desk because we're working on being quiet on command. So.
Yeah. 2 corgis. Yeah, Catherine.
2 corgis. Katie and Pippin.
Katie and
Hashtag Katie Corgi and Pippin. Actually, they have a hashtag. They have an Instagram.
Well, one of them when they were like on their back, it did kind of look like a cat. So I don't blame Catherine for like thinking it's a cat, but it's a good sized dog. Like, and like you said, like they can get a little chubby if you're not careful.
There we go. Now this one wants to be up.
There you go. Cool.
Yeah, corgis weren't supposed to be a part of my brand, but apparently I'm the corgi girl. So
no.
I've just decided to own it.
Yeah. All right, so I'll let you get on with your day and your meetings, and I'll get on with mine. But thank you once again for hanging out with me, and Catherine and Aaron and Salt and everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us on chat. We will be back, I think, later this afternoon with some UI stuff from Melissa. But otherwise, thank you for being here at Code It Live, and stay well, stay productive, and we shall see you on the next stream.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.